One of the stories that is most relevant is the collapse of the Kansas City Chiefs, the two-time defending AFC champions, who were the betting favorites before the season and into the early part of the season to win the Super Bowl again, are now 3-4, sinking like a stone. Here is Andy Reid from earlier today, head coach of the team, on the state of a franchise that managed to score only 3 points against the Titans on Sunday.
I can only tell you that we all need to get better on this. It's always good to get after the quarterback or get after a specific area. It's not one thing right now. There's a handful or two handfuls of things that we've got to get straight, and that's coaching and that's playing. And so without going into a whole lot of detail, because we still got a lot of games here to play, the obvious, I think, is what you guys can see, and that's got to be fixed. If it's fixed, you have a chance to win every football game. If it's not fixed, then you're going to struggle. I thought one of the positives, Pete, was on the plane. All the guys have these iPads now. So on the plane, they all had the game on. They were all looking at the game in the back of the plane. And it wasn't, the loud music or whatever you can perceive to be that goes on in the back of the plane. This was focused on trying to get better and looking at it, curious to see, what went wrong. And so I can handle that. That normally tells you got a pretty strong locker room. And we need that right now. That's what we need. We need strong coaches and coaching. And we need a good, solid, strong locker room. And so I felt, guys want to do the right things. We've got to make sure that we're putting them in position to do it. And then when they're put there, that they execute it the right way and then make the play.
That's Andy Reid with an extensive discussion about what's wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs. He takes some solace in the fact that the players were watching the game on the flight home yesterday from Nashville. Not a long flight and not much of the game you'd really want to watch. You could watch the positive plays pretty quickly. But, the bottom line is, Charean, I believe the Chiefs have lost their mystique, and they've lost their confidence that they can go out and score 28 points in a quarter. The problem is their opponents have not yet lost the fear that the Chiefs can do it. That's something Ryan Tannehill told me after the game yesterday. They were aware as aware can be of the fact that the Chiefs are capable of scoring a lot of points. So they were ready for it, so they never let off the gas, and the Chiefs never found the gas pedal. But until the Chiefs either begin to believe in themselves again and actually can execute, or the opponents start regarding them a little more lightly than they do, it's going to be difficult for the Chiefs to turn it on like that because everyone is on guard for it, and the Chiefs, for whatever reason, can't get their magic back.
Well, first of all, Mike, I think Microsoft is going to be a little bit perturbed that their agreement with the NFL to provide NFL with tablets, that Andy Reid refers to them as iPads, but I digress.
That would not be the first time. That would not be the first time that a company sponsored by Microsoft has had one of its prominent employees say iPad instead. But I digress. Go ahead.
I agree with you. You know who they remind me of? They remind me of the Cowboys last season. And the first 5 games that Dak played, and of course he got hurt after that, but they were not a good team. And they were not a good team because their defensive coordinator was not very good, didn't put them in good positions. They gave up so many yards on defense. The quarterback pressed. He was first in the NFL on passing yards. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is third in the NFL on passing yards. He's pressing. He's turning the ball over. 16 interceptions, Mike, in the last 16 games for Patrick Mahomes. He is pressing to make plays because he knows they're going to have to outscore teams because that defense is so bad. They're 28th in total defense, 27th in rushing, 26th in passing. They just remind me so much of that Cowboys team, just trying to outscore teams, and it just doesn't work. You've got to have defense to win in this league. I know it's the old adage, defense wins championships. I don't know if that's exactly true, but you have to have some defense to win in this league. You can't just consistently outscore teams, and that is, to me, is what the Chiefs are trying to do right now.
And you have to have some offense, too. You got to muster more than 3 points. So both sides are hurting the Chiefs right now. And I can't help but wonder and Mike Golick and I talked about this earlier today. For the first 3 years of Patrick Mahomes' career as a starter, 2018, 2019, 2020, he was so exciting in part because he ran around like his hair was on fire, and he'd make these plays, and it was like an Indiana Jones sliding under the door and reaching back and grabbing his hat quality. Like, every big play he made was by the skin of his teeth, and he had no margin for error. And now that margin for error is gone. He doesn't make those plays like he used to, and he still does sometimes, but not as consistently as he used to. It didn't blow up on him like this in the past, and he didn't get hit like he's getting hit now. And I just can't help but wonder whether that toe injury he had last year, the ligaments injured so badly that after he ran around like crazy in Super Bowl 55 trying to will the team to victory, had surgery 3 days later, I don't think it takes much diminishment to cause him to lose that edge, because it was right on the razor's edge anyway. And there's no way to compare how he moves now to how he moved before. If there is, it wouldn't be obvious. But I just feel like there's just a little bit, just enough missing that makes the difference between making those plays and not making those plays.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Mike. And he's thrown at least one interception in every game this season, except the season opener, 6 straight games of that. Only Zach Wilson, he's tied with him for 9 interceptions. That's the only other quarterback who's thrown 9 interceptions this season. He's really struggling, frankly. And he hasn't been in this position since he's been to the NFL. But you're right about that margin. It's not very, very wide, and it's a narrow margin, and he's making some mistakes now that he didn't make in those first 3 years. And by the way, old takes exposed. We all thought, we lauded the Chiefs after they went out and rebuilt this offensive line, and this offensive line is terrific, and it's much improved. And how could they do that overnight? They've done it. Guess what? They haven't done it. That offensive line is still shaky. They've got to get better in the offensive line in the offseason, Mike, whether that's signing free agents or doing it in the draft. But they've got to get better and better protect him.
Well, and the defense needs to be improved as well. I think there was so much of a focus on improving the offensive line that they forgot about the defense, and the defense has regressed. The team has regressed, and this is way too early, but I always try to look multiple moves down the board, and this is multiple years down the line. We've seen how Russell Wilson has become disenchanted with the Seahawks. We saw how Tom Brady eventually became disenchanted with the Patriots. What drives that is the quality of the team around a great quarterback who wants to build his legacy and add to it. And, we thought and still think Patrick Mahomes is going to be with the Chiefs for as long as he plays football. You never know how this is going to play out. And frankly, but before we even get to that point where it's a relevant question, where one of the best quarterbacks in football decides he wants to play somewhere else, you have to reestablish yourself as one of the best quarterbacks in football. And right now, as painful it is to say it, Patrick Mahomes is not one of the best quarterbacks in football. Peter King ranked his top 12 last week, and we talked about it on Friday's PFT Live, and he had Mahomes at 8, and I didn't think that was out of line, considering the 7 names ahead of him and considering where he is right now.
Yeah, no question about it, Mike. And I'll take that out to the head coach, too. Who knows how much longer Andy Reid's going to want to coach if this is the type of season that he's going to have to go through. We know his age. We know what he's done. He's now won his Super Bowl, and this is a team after that first Super Bowl, if you'll remember, was talking about 6, 7, 8 Super Bowls. I don't know if they even got up to 9, but the number kept climbing, and they found out how hard it is even to win 1, much less 2 or 3 or 4. And it makes you appreciate really what the Patriots were able to do in the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era, because they were just consistently winning that. You just knew they were going to win that division. And now, to me, it's almost a given that the Chiefs aren't going to win the division. I think they can still make the playoffs. They need to turn it around pretty quickly. But I don't see them right now as a Super Bowl team, and I don't know how they get that turned around to become a Super Bowl team. For the last 5 years, Mike, they've had 4 or fewer losses in those seasons. They already have 4. This is not the same team that we're used to seeing.
I said earlier today they need to do something symbolic to bury the past, 2018, 2019, 2020. Yeah. Maybe they need to bury their trophies. They need to do something to put last year and the year before that behind them and forget about it, because that can drag you down. When you know how good you have been in the recent past and you're suddenly not there, it adds to the frustration. They need to bottom out and climb out of that hole. And if they do it, Charean, if they can find a way to reach their low point, whatever their low point is, and who knows, maybe the low point is next Monday night losing to the Giants. That would definitely be a low point, all due respect to the Giants. Yeah. But when they hit their low point, if they can dig out of it and steal one of the last two spots at the table, 6 seed or 7 seed in the AFC, they would be very dangerous in a single elimination setting, because the teams that we have seen historically who have to do it the hard way, who have to go on the road for 3 rounds of the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl, those teams have great quarterback play, with the exception of the 2005 Steelers, who were the 6th seed, and they had good quarterback play from Ben Roethlisberger, but not great, especially in the Super Bowl. Usually it's great quarterback play start to finish when you get to the postseason, and they could do it. They could still do it, and what a story it would be if everyone writes them off and they dig out. And I think that's what they need more than anything else. They need all of us, everyone in the media, all the fans, to collectively say the Chiefs suck, and to say it loudly enough that the Chiefs forget about everything they've ever done, get pissed off, frankly, about what everyone is thinking about them, and then they can start digging out of it. And that's a real human emotion that can make them finally forget about how good they've been and focus on coming together, sticking together, and going about the business of doing whatever they have to do to get one of the seats at the table.
Yeah, no question about it, Mike. And I think, you know what, getting healthy on defense will help them a little bit. Now, I still have questions about what they're doing on defense. But, you know, Frank Clark and Chris Jones have been hurt most of the year. If they can get those guys back healthy, and they're healthy at the right time, you're right, it's not going to be a team that you want to play in the postseason with all of their postseason experience. Let's go the other way, though. The last time they didn't make the playoffs was 2014, and they went 9-7 that year. The last time they had a losing record was 2012, when they went 2-14. And obviously Andy Reid came in and then changed all that. So this is a team that you don't want to write them off just yet. They still can be dangerous, but they don't look like those same Kansas City Chiefs that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out again starting next Monday night when the Chiefs take on the New York Giants.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.